Hello everyone, welcome back to another drawing video, and in today's drawing video I'm going to be showing you guys how to draw a dragon eye step by step. And in this dragon eye drawing I'm also going to be giving you tips on how to shade with colored markers and how to shade with Copic markers. So to begin this drawing we're going to start off by doing a standard easy outline, and in this outline you do not want to be that detailed. You kind of just want to get your dimensions down. You want to understand where you're going to draw it and how big you're going to draw this dragon eye. So you don't need to do any nitty-gritty detailing, just kind of make sure that the dragon eye is dimensionally proportional and how you want it to be. Because the outline is one of the most important steps in getting the dimensions right to your drawing. And the materials I used in this video are going to be my paper, which is a Bristol board smooth paper. It's probably about 13 by 8, so it's a decent sized piece of paper, pretty large. And then for my markers, I use Copic markers. My shading and everything is Prismacolor pencils. I used a Copic Outliner for the main outline part of it, and then I used a little bit of other tools like blending sticks and a Uniball White Pen, as you'll see later in the drawing. So as we're getting finished with this outline, I just wanted to make the scales on one side so that I know how far apart they're going to be, how large they're going to be, so it's going to make my actual outlining a lot easier. And then in terms of the dragon eye, the middle of the eye, like the pupil of the eye, is a very important and crucial part because you want to be correct and precise on that. So now we're going to get into the actual eye. The way I'm doing this is I'm throwing a base coat of, this is just a C1 gray Copic marker, and then I'm throwing a little more of it, like a C3 up to a C5, just to get a different shading into it. But the main reason why I'm throwing this base coat over is because when I use my colored pencils to shade, it actually will help the colored pencils meld to the paper more. Because when you are putting that base coat on of Copic markers, you are taking away that little tiny extra space between the drawing and the paper, like so. I throw the marker on, it takes away that little millimeter or that tiny part of space between the paper and the material that you're using. So that's why I throw the base coat over. Now as you see with this black part of the eye that I'm using a single pencil, a single material here. I'm using only a Copic Outliner. The reason why I picked the Copic Outliner is because it will not smudge when I'm going over with Prismacolor pencils and or Copic markers. This is a very good useful tool, and so I'm just doing a million little tiny strokes here, getting it to where I want it. And this, you don't need to follow me exactly. You can make the eye however you want it, but I like the idea of using the Copic Outliner because it provides a very nice feel and a very grainy feel. And so as I'm finishing this, you see that there is a lot of detailing I'm putting in this. I'm making every stroke flow with each other one, so it's kind of going in a circular motion here, and then the straight lines are going out from the middle of the eye. You gotta really focus on that and keeping everything symmetrical, as not so symmetrical as like to where it's exact measurements on each side, but you want to make it so it looks like a very nice feel. Now I'm going over it with a Prismacolor pencil. I'm using a dark green here to start off with, and then I'm melding it over with a white. So the way I'm shading with these color pencils is quite difficult because you don't want to throw a color pencil that is, I'll say, a dark gray, and then you don't want to leave it like that. Because if you leave the dark green like that, it's just going to be very granular, and you will not actually see a lot of shading and techniques in it. So that's my that's how my feel is. Now I'm going to throw a little black outline out, and make sure you get your blacks and whites up to par. You don't want to have your whole entire drawing all black unless you're going for a really dark drawing. But if you're shading from black to white, you want to make sure that the side of your drawing that is the dark side stays the dark side. So in this case, I'm using a black Copic marker and really making the black very dark. And then I'm doing these scales. I throw a black color marker in the middle, and then my Prismacolor pencil black, I kind of shade around the little black dots in the scales. And then I finalize that by going over it with a violet and a blue, just a standard blue around the scales. And then after that, I use my white Prismacolor pencil to do the shading and blending so that when it blends, there's no smudges and there's no little tiny white marks. So it's exactly how I want the scales to be. That's one thing to keep in mind is doing your layering. I usually like to work from dark to light. Some people work from light to dark, but as I go from dark to light, I do black, the dark blue, the blue violet, and then the pink, and then I finish it with the white topping. And then don't forget, when you are shading, you want to keep your blacks melding into your purples and blues and everything. So on the outsides of these scales, I really make sure that I meld it afterward with the black and use my black Prismacolor pencil to really blend in with the scales. As you see here, I keep going back and back and back to the scales, making sure that that blend with the black works and that it actually will flow very smoothly with it. And once again, I'm just using my black Copic marker to do a very basic outline of more scales and getting that really dark texture in there because I want a lot of this drawing to be very dark so that the eye will light up. The eye and all of the purple will light up when you look at it. And you see my favorite tools here are probably the Prismacolor white pencil because that is my finalizing tool for everything. I will continue to do my shading with my blue, blacks, purples, whatever color I'm using, but then I always finalize it with my white because the white really blends every single color pencil in with each other so that it will have that flow and that clarity of a look. It'll look very clear. And in these scales, they take a long time, so have patience with your drawing. This drawing took me 8.5 hours. I recommend when you're drawing that you take breaks, take time. Don't make it so much a task. Make it a hobby more than a task. Like, you have to complete this drawing. Yes, this is going to be a very long drawing to complete. It's going to take a lot of time doing each individual scale and really taking your time to blend them. The more you rush through the drawing, the worse it's going to come out. So just have time, take your time in the drawing, and have fun with it. That's how I did this drawing. And on these scales, you can see each one is literally taking probably 30 to 40 seconds to do on just per scale because I have to do about 5 layers per scale and then outline it and then shade it. So take your time and have fun with it. When I'm drawing these scales here with my Copic marker, I'm making sure though that they're all different. I don't want each scale to be the exact same. You can do that if you want to, but I like a lot of differentiation in my drawings so that it looks more realistic. And now as you see, I'm on the dark side of this, so I'm using a lot more black in terms of each scale. Each scale is probably about 75% black, and then the violet, then the blue. I'm not even really doing any pink or light blue in this. It's just all the dark colors. But I am finishing with that little white glow to give it more of a blend. And so when you look at it, you're like, okay, that's actually looks realistic. There's some white glow on the dark side. Because the whole dark really shouldn't be 100% dark. It has to be a little bit different and flowing a little lighter. And then I'll slowly work my way to probably about, right now I'm at about 50% dark on each scale, and then I'll work my way into making it probably 25% dark or 0 black at all. And on the right side, it's going to be almost all completely light blue and a little bit of dark blue here and there, and then a tad bit of violet sometimes in the ends to make it still have that dark feel. But overall, you just want to understand that your light source is coming from, in this case, the right side of the drawing. So my light source would be on the right side of the drawing. You can mark it, do whatever you need to do to remember that when you're drawing your drawing, this side is going to be shaded light, and the other side is going to be shaded dark. And you see, I keep going back to different scales and different parts of the drawing, just touching it up, moving back to it a little bit. This is key in drawing because when you're drawing, you will miss a lot of things, and especially when you're doing thousands of scales. You will miss a scale, you'll miss 5 scales, 20 scales, and you just gotta go back to them and look and be like, okay, yep, I need to go over this with my white color pencil a little more. I need to go over this with this a little more. You just gotta, it's trial and error. You gotta do it until you like it. Now I'm gonna move on to the top portion of the scales, and remember this side is still a light side, so I'm gonna make the scales probably the same proportional to the scales below, but I'm gonna make this side a lot lighter, and then I have to meld it into the dark. Right now I'm probably about 6 hours into the drawing. It did take a long time, like I said, and it was a very fun project. I would love to do it again because drawing dragon eyes is one of the cool fantasy parts of this. This part was probably my favorite part to do of the drawing because I went black, blue, violet, and then I went a light blue. And I used that light blue to melt all the colors together, so it gave that very purplish blue look. More of a light blue violet look. Usually you don't get that, and I was very happy that that turned out there. And then I used the white Prismacolor to blend it in. These scales are going to be quite easy because they're going to be very light with a purple hazy mix. Now as you see, I'm drawing kind of like, they're horns, I consider them, above the eye. I'm using a Copic Outliner, and then I'm going to use a black Prismacolor pencil to do the most of the shading on this. But I'm just kind of using a Copic Outliner to understand how I want this and make them kind of scally on the horns, so it looks like the horns are kind of broken. One key thing I like to do when I'm drawing is I like to continue to do the thing that I'm working on, if that makes sense. So, if I'm working on doing black outlining, I'm going to do all of the black outlining for that specific part of the drawing. I'm not going to do a black outline and then redraw with my light color pencils. I'm going to do the black outline so that it stays the same throughout the drawing. Because sometimes you can forget a lot. Say, because like these layers, I'm doing 5 to 6 layers. If I forget that layers, like if I don't do black, blue, purple, and white, if I do it in a different order, it's going to come out a lot different in terms of color and in terms of the blend. So always keep your order straight and understand what your order is going to be. And later I can show a video of how to detail and shade more with colored pencils or Copic markers, because it is very challenging to understand it as a beginner level. You don't want to go in there buying $300 markers and colored pencils and not understand how to use them. It takes a long time and takes a little bit and takes a lot of trial and error to draw them and shade with them. So now as I'm finishing up the horns on this, I'm just going to be finishing up this drawing, and I hope you guys all liked this and enjoyed this drawing, because once again it was a very fun drawing to do. Drawing these horns, drawing the eye, drawing the 1,000 scales was a long drawing, but overall a very fun and effective drawing in terms of my gallery. If you guys have any questions, just please comment down below. I love all the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But you can actually see how I'm doing the layering more here than the scales, because it's a larger part of the drawing, the horns. So this is the full-size drawing right here. I'm going to go over it with my Uniball White Pen and just do a little bit of a little more detailing and kind of light it up a little bit here and there, light some scales up. So I hope you guys liked the drawing. It took 8.5 hours to fully complete this dragon eye, and every single thing I did was for you guys. So hit that subscribe button down below and click the little bell. I will be posting videos every single Saturday at 4 o'clock. And don't forget to leave a comment and leave a like. What do you think? Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching.